A lot of Americans think our love of SUVs and crossovers is unique to the United States. Nope, that would be pickups. Sport utes are the best-selling segment in Europe, too. On that side of the pond, they prefer them more compact. In the US, size matters, and the second-generation Chevrolet Traverse does not disappoint.
Thinking about parking this in your garage? I suggest measuring the space first. This is not a small machine. Traverse is about 6 inches longer than Volkswagen's Atlas and about this much longer than Chevy's own Tahoe.
Sticking with the Chevys for a moment, the truck-based Tahoe is 4 inches taller, but has a little less cargo room than Traverse. That's a packaging win that crossovers excel at. However, Traverse tows up to 5,000 pounds, Tahoe 8,600. It's a simple case of buying the right tool for the job. Traverse can be had with a turbocharged 4-cylinder in the RS model. The mid-level LT leather version I'm driving gets a 3.6-liter V6. Power is up a bit. There's 310 horsepower and 266 pound-feet of torque on tap. The transmission is now a 9-speed. Love the standard Prindle lever, though for those wanting to shift manually, this is a bit awkward. All-wheel drive is optional. This one is front drive. Traverse has lost some 300 pounds.
So it's lighter, it's more powerful, and there are more gears in the transmission.
High school physics would tell you that's a recipe for better performance.
0 to 60 happens in about 6.5 seconds. Pretty good for a rig this size. Now, this is a front-wheel drive model, so off the line, there's a little bit of torque steer. That's the tugging of the steering wheel.
You have to floor it to feel that, so many drivers won't notice it. All-wheel drive takes care of that, and know that there are 2 systems, the standard selectable kind or a dual-clutch system that's standard on the top trim High Country model.
Traverse may be large, but it doesn't feel like you're at the helm of a super tanker. The cornering is pretty good. Steering light but crisp. The suspension is firm but comfortable. And it drives a little smaller than it really is.
It gives Traverse a feeling of confidence until you head into a parking garage with low clearance. This big Chevy is actually fairly maneuverable in lots. This is a particularly small cul-de-sac, and Traverse could have probably made it, but I didn't want a chance scuffing the alloy wheel. To be fair, some smaller vehicles can't U-turn here.
Fuel economy? Well, in mixed driving, I saw 21 miles per gallon, and at a steady 70 miles an hour, I saw 26. That's very good, if not best in class. Traverse has a fuel-saving automatic engine start-stop system. General Motors does a very good job with these. It's very smooth. Can hardly tell it's happening. And it's good that they do a great job because it can't really be turned off.
This would be a comfortable and roomy vehicle to head to Grandma's house in. Approaching luxury car dynamics, it's fairly refined and quiet. What we wish our kids would be, right?
One more thing to point out, the transmission is very good, very smooth, always in the right gear. You may not even notice it doing its job.
If you haven't been in a modern Chevy, this is pretty much the vibe most of them have these days. The look is simple and clean. There are some areas where it looks like the bean counters stepped in, but overall, it's pleasant enough in here.
Traverse has a unique airbag that can deploy between the 2 front seats so people don't knock heads during an impact.
This secret hideaway is pretty cool, and even if thieves know about it, a passcode can lock it, much like your phone. The center console is big enough for cameras and tablets. There's no shortage of USB jacks in here, and the controls are all very simple to master.
If you're interested in advanced safety tech, such as automatic emergency braking with pedestrian detection, which is standard on all Toyota Highlanders and most Honda Pilots, with Traverse, you have to move up to the top-end Premier model, where it's a $475 option.
I consider a simple, elegant user interface to be a safety feature, and this one is pretty darn good. The screen response is snappy and the layout is clear. Unlike Toyota, GM has aggressively rolled out Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. A surround view camera is also reassuring, especially in a rig this size. Lower trim models can be had with seating for 8. This one gets captain's chairs that will keep the kids separated or distract them with iPads and the built-in Wi-Fi hotspot. All Traverses get 3-zone climate control. All electronics can be charged, unless you forget the cables. There's no shortage of places to put stuff and drinks, but if you want to block out old soul, you'll have to buy aftermarket sunshades.
A handy touch, you don't have to remove a child seat for easy access to the third row. A handier touch would be to have this feature on both chairs. The passenger side is the only one that gets it. At 5'9", I have a good amount of room. The seats are mounted on the low side, so not a lot of thigh support. There are belts for 3. I would keep it to 2, unless they're little kids.
More storage, more USB ports. If the back seat is going to get a lot of use by grown-ups, check out Volkswagen's Atlas, which has a slightly more comfortable third row.
Now, I've got to say, vans have more usable space than SUVs and crossovers, but Traverse is no slouch.
Some crossovers hardly have room for a cooler with row 3 in use. It looks like this Chevy handles an impressive 5 bundles of softness and absorbency. It's actually 6, and the load floor is at a reasonable height. The seats are especially easy to drop, resulting in a floor that is nice and flat. The champ in the TP trunk test is the Atlas at 20 packs of the 2-ply. Measured in cubic feet, Traverse has a slightly larger cargo hold, but ultimately ties the big VW, and if you think one more will fit in...
Nope.
On most cars, all that TP blocks the rearview mirror, but this one is also a video screen, so that's not an issue. Kudos to the stylists for adapting the current fluid Chevrolet design language to a vehicle that is meant to project machismo and strength. That look is part of the appeal for owners. The handsome Traverse, done up in pepper dust metallic, drew many compliments in the parking lot, usually followed by remarks about how large it is. General Motors seems to set retail prices fairly high to give dealers a lot of room for haggling. A base L model begins at around $31,000. That's reasonable for an 8-passenger sport ute. This LT leather version I've been driving elevates the price to $42,000, and all-wheel drive would add $2,000. The ritzy High Country is a lofty $53,000. That's about $6,000 more than a Honda Pilot Elite. But the roomy and refined Traverse has its appeal for families looking to live large. Now, if you're simply looking to drive something as big as possible, there's always Suburban that's 20 inches longer than Traverse, but I wouldn't enjoy driving that in dense urban areas. The Traverse seems to be a good compromise of room and drivability if you simply need space and not extreme towing ability. And understand that if you want a smaller 3-row, there's always Kia Sorento, or if you're a GM fan, the GMC Acadia, which is about 10 inches shorter than Traverse. Why? Well, probably to set it apart at Buick GMC dealers that sell the new Enclave, which is the same size as the Chevy. And keep in mind, Honda Odyssey or Chrysler Pacifica vans are about the same length as the Traverse, which is why I don't call them mini vans. One last quibble, oftentimes there are little Velcro tabs on these straps to keep them stuck to the back seat. That would be helpful in this case. For some reason, I find the straps fly forward. To raise the seats again, it's a bit of a hassle to climb into the back and retrieve it. Go with the High Country and the seats are powered, but then you're spending a lot more money.
Well, thanks for sticking around to the very end. Hope you learned something about the all-new Chevy Traverse. Now, a lot of you wonder what I do with all of this stuff. Many of you do know that I just go into Costco, wheel this stuff out, load it up, take it back into the store. Costco doesn't charge me. They've been very good over the years, so just wanted to say thanks. That's Driven. I'm Tom Voelk.